Welcome, everyone. Jordi, this is our first episode. We're going to talk about the thing that we like the most, and that is decisioning.
Decisioning.
Good.
Yes.
So, the thing that's important for everyone is who we are and why we're doing it, and why should you trust us. So, I'll
Mm.
have a go, Jordi, and then maybe you can explain to the viewers why they should watch us. So, uh, we are people who've been in decisioning for a while now. My personal experience has been about 18 years in decisioning. Worked with a variety of clients in different sectors: telcos, utilities, energy. There's in
You name it.
entertainment.
Yeah.
There's a lot, right? Banking included. And
Yeah.
what we feel is at this with all of this experience, we should share it with the world. There's a lot of people who have entered into the space of decisioning, and if there's anything that people can learn from our experiences, our mistakes, and our past successes, then this should be implemented because this is really meant for the community, so we can grow together. And of course, if there's anything that you want to learn from us, reach out to us. So, Jody, what's your take on this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first, thank you for preparing this because I think that it's very useful to the community, right? Because there are not such these events also, and I think that it's really nice to share our experiences and our trajectory also. So yeah, well, as you mentioned, right? So it's like 18 years of experience already in decisioning. We encounter a lot of, or yeah, a lot of issues or successes also, and we went with the evolution of Pega, with the versions of Pega, and see new introductory things in every version. At least, yeah. I started with the 7.2 version basically, but I know that you were older, so uh, I didn't touch the 6 point something version. But yeah, yeah. As you mentioned, we went with a lot of we work in a lot of industries, and
Mhm.
I think that gave us a little bit of perspective or a generic work method to apply decisioning in every industry, and that's very very nice to share with the public. Maybe it's going
Absolutely.
to help yeah, the
Yeah, well,
people.
if people like it, people should reach out, and this is all about sharing with the wider community. I mean, of course, we're going to be live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, when and maybe other social platforms. So maybe let's just talk about how we entered into Pega decisioning, and was that the first thing that we ever did? What brought us here? So maybe I can go with Jordi. Yeah, go on. I mean, if you want to start off.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. For me, the story is a little bit crazy. uh, I mean, back at the time, like it was in 2017, end of 2017, uh, we were meant to take certificates, basically. Decision certificate. At that time, there was uh, I mean, nowadays also the decision and consultant certification, the marketing consultant also, the senior
Yes,
market.
it's
This kind
it's
of
not there anymore,
certificates.
right?
It's not there anymore. But
Yeah.
the funny thing is that we were studying that, me and well, a group of people, and then in 6 months time, just they were expired basically. But
Yeah. Mm.
it gave a lot of knowledge and a lot of introduction also, a preparatory thing. So I it was my first time in Pega. I mean, working in Pega in 2018 January, and at that time I thought that Pega it was about only decisioning. So for me it was let's say a misunderstanding because I didn't know anything about it. And my background it was more financials, so for me it was one of the first times to really to really play a role as an IT, let's say. So of course, that was. I mean, I can go on and on, but please.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of very interesting because when I started working, which is it's going back 2000s, I was very, very far from Pega or decisioning. started my life off as a engineer, software engineer. Went
Okay.
into platform operations, worked a bit for a bigger telco. Then I did some work as a technical project manager, and then eventually I wanted to come into consulting. So I ended up with Pega Decisioning. And you were right, because you mentioned I started off earlier than Pega 7, because when I started, I was actually working with Cordiant. And that
Cordiant.
was Pega, Cordiant decision management, and the classic things. Cordiant marketing director was there. So this was a different world. Pega would have been case management then, pure workflow.
Hmm.
And Pega did acquire Cordiant at some point after, I think, a multiple number of clients, which I did. And then
What time? What year more or less it was
uh,
acquired?
I think, again, I have to check my facts, would have been around the 2000, would have been around the 2005 mark.
2005. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think something.
Okay.
Is that 2005? I have to check. Maybe
Well, more or less.
2012. I think I'm just going back in history. 20
Yeah, yeah.
between 2012 to 2015. Something. Obviously, there was an acquisition. I did a piece there when I spoke on the Pega community event. So I did mention about the timeline there, but and the history as well about what decisioning, Cordiant decisioning did, and why Pega uh, bought it.
Yeah.
So now, what was interesting was Pega has retained the core ethos of what decisioning is all about. So when you start talking about, well, we used to call with various names propositions, actions that we call right
Yeah.
now. We used to call it offers, but it was pretty much the same. And some of the components that you see and why we do it, that's still maintained. But obviously, it's taken on a new form of itself. So,
Hmm.
and really, me joining Cordiant, this was me coming from a programming background. It was like a head scratcher for me as to why people are doing things this way.
Hmm.
And I think that started making sense after a few years after I was in. So
Yeah.
this is what brought me in. What do you
Nice.
think? I mean, how's your
Uh,
experience been so far in this?
yeah. Yeah. I started as let's say, since I had some SQL experience, then I would start like checking fact tables, interaction history tables, and check the results. So I was not in the development part, and to have a little bit of overview and understanding on how what's about, right? So one thing is certifications, and the other thing is like working there and checking the things. How what is an strategy? What's the rule? What's the proposition of property, decision data, whatever, this kind of stuff. And then um, by seeing which customer receive what, it gave me a little bit of understanding on how the mechanism behind the scenes works, and that was really really nice. And from there, I just jumped into the development and I started to see, uh, you know, and apply the concepts that the certification said at the time, right? But it was nice. It got my interest to see how everything is unified and how it's structured, and see the capabilities that these tools have also. I think that it was very very interesting, and again, it was my first time to see an application with digital marketing applied, implemented in there. After I realized, compared with the other products, that we were at the top, let's say, um, capability provider, let's say, tool, and it was really, yeah, really interesting. So
Yeah.
uh, it's nice because I didn't have the background of IT, so this change between financials and IT for me it was a really big change,
Mhm.
which I really like changes. I think that they are needed, and to do that, yeah, it gave me the perspective and the motivation to to follow my career and so on. Yeah, until now, basically. So yeah, a little bit is that's the yeah.
I think there's a lot of people, even in the client community, that are, let's say, they've been working, maybe being in the tech sector or maybe in the marketing side. They've been working on various
Hmm.
things, being a
Yeah,
marketeer, and then they,
there were a lot of sorry, yeah, there were a lot of people with different backgrounds, right? So
yeah,
in this path of decisioning, find people coming from another technologies and ending up in Pega or Pega decisioning, and it's very interesting to see the background of people ending up in there.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Pega decisioning is very easy to pick up if you think about the concepts, because we are still seeing the same concepts as well. Running a campaign, it's quite simple. So it's not as such a very complex concept to learn. And although if you understand the nuances of how things are structured, I suppose when I've seen the only complex thing that comes up is the issue in the group. I think there's always been a challenge about why you call this an issue, why is a group, and how do you structure things. And beyond that,
yeah,
I think every other conversation is very, very simple. Everyone gets
yeah.
it.
I realize that when you talk about issue, people, business people are being a little bit alarmed, saying, "Oh, that's an issue." It's, no, no, that's not an issue. That's how
Yeah.
it's called.
And I do remember the fantastic job Pega people are doing, but still it gets some training to understand these concepts. And of course, if you talk about things like deployment manager, one-to-one ops manager, that
Yeah,
is in itself a concept to learn.
yeah,
But Pega is not one set of people. There's always a mix of people, and that's why you have a team. And then
yeah, exactly.
different
I think that
different people.
yeah,
Hmm,
yeah. I think that team it's important because to unify everyone.
hmm.
Otherwise, it's becoming really really complex for one person.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
before we dive much deeper into talking about things that we enjoy and maybe some of the clients that we've worked on, I want to talk about your earlier decisioning career and my career as well. I'm going to touch upon. How do you feel Pega decisioning has evolved from when you started to what it is
Well,
probably now, or maybe your recent experience? What's your take on
yeah,
this,
yeah,
Jordi?
yeah. Well, at the very beginning, everything it was in the certification, in the training. So the idea of applying, let's say, to follow a structure, right? Issues and groups, as we mentioned, customer journeys, eligibilities, then yeah, the PX priority, how to get that, right? Um, so everything it was in the training, so we had the idea, but what I realized is that in the earliest versions, let's say in 7 point something, these things you needed to build them without any template, let's say, right? So out of scratch, let's say old school, right? So it was like I remember those times that you had a canvas, right, a strategy, and then it's like, okay, I need to import propositions, I need um, to use a filter, I need to switch something, I don't know, apply a decision table or whatever. Uh, but at that time, right? I mean, at that time, doing a lot of years, everything was made like from scratch, like testing and checking contact policies if it works or not. So there was a lot of development and time consuming, I think, to apply, let's say, basic things like, I don't know, contact policy or the formula, the magic formula for the PX priority.
A quiz
Uh,
for people who are watching. What's that magic formula still called? Should we reveal it? I mean, I think everyone should know about this, right? PCLB.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
If you don't, if you don't learn now, you will learn in the future for sure.
yeah, and it's such a. I think right now, and I've interviewed a lot of people in wannabe decisioning architects or even lead decisioning architects before we even have
Yeah,
had the certification, and
yeah,
the way that we've sort of started our careers is we've tweaked the PCLV formula as well. So it's like, I mean, you could just have P for that instance, you could just skip everything else, really. And even the way priorities, the propensity has been calculated,
yeah.
we've been able to tweak it. And
Sorry?
sometimes even the way we use propensity, we've been
Yeah.
able to tweak it.
Uh,
So, and what really
yeah.
happens is every organization I've seen, especially with a bank, with a telco, getting the right result is sometimes more important than what the set processes almost dictate you to do. So if you see nowadays, there's almost like a framework that's been supplied. So if you're in banking, here's the banking, framework. Just use it, start off with it. There's the data model and everything's there. But the
Yeah.
question I would pose for people who've been, just picked it up is, where do you think all of this came from? It came from a lot of experimentative nature of people and the people who've been working in these organizations, because the organizations themselves would not say, you have to do this to get this result. They just wanted the result. I just want better sales. I want people, customers to be contacted with the best offers. How do you achieve that? And it's the people, the decisioning consultants, right? In combination with all of these system architects. Uh, of course, all of this was set up, and that's been through a lot of experimentative cycles. Years and years of work have been put in,
Yeah.
which people just take for granted nowadays.
Yeah, and the strategy of MBA designer, right? The framework, this framework you mentioned, it's huge. It's right. It's a strategy inside a strategy and inside another strategy. So it's amazingly like well developed. I had the chance to see it and to work in the extension points also, if needed, and so on.
Mm.
The complexity of these strategies, it's incredible. Of course, back now, right? We needed to simulate that, mm, by hand, let's say, manually, right? Importing
Yeah.
preposition, adding this set property in there, then I don't know, priority, whatever. But now, of course, now it changed the way that it's going, all the components and all the stuff. It's very very complex, but it's complex, but it's very very specific, right? Very nicely done, let's say, right?
Yeah, and
What
this has become a best practice now. So it's almost, with all of these implementations, Pega themselves have understood that there's only so many things you can do to optimize it, and this is as optimized as it can get. And of course, then there's this. This is why it's called out of the box. Is in an industry, this is what works best, and so there is now no more need to start from the beginning. So as you mentioned, you started off at maybe one of your project clients or many clients from scratch. You're staring at a blank canvas. How do you start off? So the first component you put in, that becomes the first component of that chain of strategies that you would see. So now the wonderful thing is, instead of creating that chain, obviously, it's been learnings from other clients that have been gone into the product. But all those areas in between, that's where the extension points have come in. And when people say that, well, I have to change the extension point, this really means is that Pega is suggesting is, do not change the underlying component, because they have been formed out of best practice. And if anybody
in
decides
fact,
to,
in
uh,
fact, a lot of rules are final also. So
yeah, well, there you go. Because and then what really happens is, it becomes a customization, and there's always about upgrades that we have to worry about. If an upgrade, and because if these become final, what that framework is, then these things would not be supported in upgrades. They might change, they might break what you've already built. So it's almost a very productized approach, which Pega is trying to, or has been successful in moving towards. It really should be,
yeah,
the next time is, make it the minimal amount of work. Even
yeah,
now, the effort we're putting in,
yeah.
it should be substantially reduced. More
Of
and more.
course, I mean, totally agree. Now there is like this template that you can create an action, then a 3 minutes, very very visually right? Because you follow on with some tasks, with some UI in the background is changing, so that's amazing. Uh, I remember a long time that when we were creating propositions, which is not called actions, right? We were updating an Excel spreadsheet and going to that decisioning management and conversion decision management and import the Excel spreadsheet
Yes.
with some how it's called, some columns, and so on. So we needed to use this ID pattern. Let's say I001, G005, and P00, then whatever. So that was really, yeah. like fulfilling this Excel spreadsheet, and then yeah, you have the proposition in there. Now
Yeah.
it's only one click, and then you have the action already. So it's less
Yeah,
time, of course. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. So, in fact, that was a very complex approach because if you think about all the business rules, they were lost in all of these cryptic um, uh, IDs that we used to create. And then I also remember that we had to maintain, I think you mentioned exporting it to a spreadsheet, but there was a separate spreadsheet that had to be maintained, which almost translated that I001 actually meant this sort of a rule. And this was the start of the when rules being used as a part of this engagement
yeah,
policies.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic times, Jody. So, which kind of brings
Yeah.
us very well to actually talking about some of the clients and for the interest of course a bit of privacy and maintaining if we're going to talk about what went well,
Yeah.
what didn't go well. I mean, just talk about clients based on their domain. So
Yeah.
what interests you, Jody? What was the best and the worst client you worked in? Maybe just take any example that you want.
Best clients. Yeah.
Yeah, start over there.
Uh, yeah. I mean, if I'm saying best clients now, maybe if I'm not mentioning them, that means that they
up,
are
up,
not really best clients.
up to you. If the clients are happy, if it doesn't really matter, I think past clients should be okay because you threw it, right?
Yeah.
You just need
Yeah.
to protect the ones that you're working with right now.
No, yeah. Yeah, I think that one of the best clients, it was, at that time, it was British Airways. British Airways, that
Ah, the British company, airline company.
British company.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It was really, really nice. Not for the client itself, also, but for the environment that we were working together and yeah, the dedication of the team members. Working on a client, it's really nice if you have a team, let's say, consistency and dedication, and to be emotionally involved, let's say, right? So British Airways was one of the clients also. They had uh, what is called a customer decisioning hub, omni-channel strategy. I don't remember the naming convention right now, but it was like a monster strategy, really big, with a lot of components and so on. They were mainly having email channel, web channel, also SMS, also probably SMS. Yeah, SMS also when you are in the airport, let's say in a specific area, then you receive an SMS. But it was really cool. And also another client, it's that it was in Telenet, Belgium. It was really nice. That I think that
Yeah.
you were also in Telenet, right?
I
Before
was,
me.
yes, yeah. And I started off, I did a POC for them very early days, 2019, I
Huh.
believe.
I remember in Telenet myself. Uh, so at that time, um, yeah, the team was a little bit immature, but there was a really nice proposal. And after, I think that right now they've got a really nice infrastructure. Um, well, not sure about it because I'm not there, but it was, yeah, I think that I learned a lot in there. I really learned a lot. Yeah. It was really fast paced, like with a lot of use cases, and everything was in a state that was not very well built. There was some kind of templates also. So, of course, that was a challenge also.
Mm.
Was really a challenge.
It's
Yeah.
interesting because you mentioned with Telenet, there was a lot of use cases, which means between my time and when you joined, I'm sure you joined late because I was probably one of the first ones in. We were trying to engage with the client to talk about use cases. And at that point of time, so any client you go in early as a part of the onboarding team, you have to
Mm.
start getting people to start thinking about decisioning. And not a lot of
Yeah.
people. And if they're not used to personalization, well, everyone
Yeah.
does personalization, but the concept of one-to-one personalization that Pega brings in, then talking about what can you do is a challenge in its own right. But
Yeah.
once people start, then it's nonstop. Then all those creative juices just start flowing in, and people start thinking about, oh, we can do this, or we can do that, and then we have to just say, okay, it goes beyond the capabilities of the product. Can't do this in Pega at least, or maybe we can do it with a bit more customization. So the challenges are in the beginning, and then the challenges are to control their excitement. There's two ends of the spectrum. Have
Yeah.
you seen any sort of example where you had to actually tell the client, no, can't be done in Pega? Sorry, we're not there yet.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, I really think that the product needs to mature together with the team also, right? So the team needs to mature, needs to arrive to a certain knowledge and gathering, it's like an engine, right? It's a car, like a car that when you want to start, going fast also.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of stuff that needs to be done at the very beginning, and that's pretty much important. But once the client get, let's say, the product, running good, also, and with the team like aligned, business and development and testing, and everyone is aligned. They are not having issues, and they are seeing the value. They are seeing the effort, and they understand better the application, the things that Pega decision can do, and so on. Right? So it's very the results not only have revenue, but
Mm.
also like easiness if you want to manage some stuff, so that developers and testers and business, they get a common understanding on how to do the things, uh, and they can work faster, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the key things I've seen is that you mentioned about team is everyone should be working towards a common goal. They should know why they're doing the things that they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the biggest motivators is understanding the KPI. What is it that this entire endeavor is aiming to achieve?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
the team, in fact, I'm not just talking about the individual contributors that are working, but it's really across departments. And the thing that I've seen within the organization Kindred, I was part of that. I was the head of customer decisioning audience there. Is not just the business team, the CRM team or the marketing team that's coming up with all these creative ideas. It's us as a team that's making the MarTech space work, along with the engineering team and the data team, analytics team. There's so many teams involved.
Yeah.
Everyone
Exactly.
should have a common understanding about if you allow certain things to happen with the pace that the market is expecting. Say you're
Mhm.
targeting a certain event.
Yeah.
And if we start putting in artificial bottlenecks, which means a very thorough compliance check when an early compliance check has already been done and we've already passed those gates, putting in another check that's going to delay, or there's so many gates that I mean, I'd frankly say this is kind of a red tape. If you put in too many red tapes in the way, then we would never be able to achieve a common vision, and which
Yeah.
is trying to put the product out into the market as soon as possible, of course,
Mhm.
of a certain quality that meets
Mhm.
the organization's need, and getting the results, the right results, and making sure those results are circulated across the team. Because for some people, these results would be right there. They see how many
Yeah.
customers have bought what. But really, if you think about, I mean, whether you structure it horizontally, whether you structure it vertically, the people who are down there, maybe the engineering team, let's say, they're not aware of what's going on. And I've seen this and heard quite a lot that the engineering teams say that we don't know what's going on in the business side. The business team says we do not know about the complexities in the tech world at all. And
Yeah.
we ended up, some reason, Pega decisioning, we are somewhere right in the middle.
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because so have you encountered, let's say, a situation like business wants to do, I don't know, bring to life five email, right? For instance, and then there is the content team that is doing the content, because let's say mm, there is an external application doing the content instead of inside Pega, uh, but they don't know. So they don't know the exact time when content should um, give us, let's say, the ID or whatever it is, the attributes to link the action to the treatment to the content. Let's say it's a common thing that you or have you encountered that in your old projects?
Yeah, so there's always a challenge. In fact, you're talking about matching the content with the treatment.
Yeah, for instance, like
Yeah,
some, yeah.
yeah. What used to happen, and this is going back to the early days even, is if Pega is not a headless system, it's not working as a headless system, then you can store all of the content that you want uh, and display it on the UI. And this is something we've seen when classically there used to be something called as recommendation advisor, which isn't around now. But then decisioning would store everything like what's the short treatment description, the long description, and even the prices of the product. And this used to be displayed as this. And this is where the when you see when the action, the treatment, all of the content elements which are stored, that
Mhm.
used to be much more important. But when
Yeah.
the headless decisioning started, then we were really only interested in, well, what's the action Pega is recommending? Just let us know about what we need to talk about, not the actual details of the discussion we're going to have, or not the creative we want to display. And this is where the reliance on the CMS systems and really how we display things, that has become much more complex nowadays. So you want to use things like AEM, Adobe Experience Manager, for pulling in the right creative, the right dimension. And there's so many dimensions about the creative itself. Is it's something if it's a simple system, we can maintain this within Pega. But if it's a very complex setup, then you don't want to keep this complexity within us. There are other teams that can deal with that level of complexity. So that's why we say that, okay, we just
Yeah.
manage or match the content ID, just take that forward and display it however you want. But every time there's a new uh, action to talk about, a new content to talk about, we'll give you the ID. And that makes it very, very simple from us, for us within Pega decisioning to, to work within this very complex organization.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's best if we start now moving from clients. And I think I may have mentioned about Sky when I mentioned that was probably one of my favorite clients to start with. That was my first ever client. Uh, let's
Okay.
talk about domains because I've worked in a lot of domains. We started off with this. So, and you mentioned about the airline domain. That's probably something that you're close to, that you enjoyed working. But
Mhm.
generally, how do you think which domains would really benefit from decisioning? Because there are some domains that Pega themselves haven't tried, or maybe they've tried and maybe curtailed back, saying, okay, it's kind of very different challenge to
Yeah.
break. But where do you see this going?
Yeah, that's a great question, huh? Because once I think that the domain that it's easier to use decisioning, it's banking or and
Absolutely, yeah.
telecommunications.
I agree. That's like a very standard
Yeah,
use case available.
yeah, yeah. Even when once we go to the wizard of Pega to install Pega CDH, I remember that there are these. Okay, it's your industry telecommunication. Then press this button, right? So it's already
Yeah,
established. Maybe they have like a template or data model, right? And the
yeah,
context dictionary also it's by default is one. The banking also they have another button, and after it's like okay, custom. Let's say whatever.
yeah.
If your industry it's something else in another topic, let's say airlines, right? As you mentioned, and that was a challenge because of course you have your. I mean, banking usually, and I didn't have a banking client. I think that the context dictionary, the context. Well, let's speak
Mhm.
about context, right? Maybe it's very very similar between all the banking industries, right? So we have a customer, an account, maybe I don't know, products. I don't know. I'm just
Hmm.
inventing a little bit the hierarchy in here, but mostly they are quite similar. But if we are talking about airlines, it depends on the company that uh, it can be similar also because you have a flight return flight can be a return flight also. You have a booking also, right? You have an account, you have a customer. So this context also it's can be pre-established, but I think that they can vary a little bit between companies, and maybe banking it's more similar between them. Think
Jordi, the internet connection did struggle at this point, so I missed that last bit that you mentioned.
no, don't worry. Um, I was talking that maybe banking industry it's quite similar between companies in regards of context, setting up the context, right? And maybe there are other industries, let's say flight industries or I don't know, electricity provider industry or
Mm.
service industry. Maybe they can be different from the companies. So
Yeah,
what do you
so
think?
I think eventually we need to start thinking about like a B2B or a B2C model, right? So um, generally, when you're dealing with customers, there can be nuances. Also depends on the products that the company is selling. So if there is like telcos, the classic example is you've got a subscription, there could be account subscription, and then devices themselves. So that's where the structure and the hierarchy is decided. In the banks, of course, you can start with account, customer account. It really depends on how that hierarchy is set up. You can bring in more complexity or nuances within it. But really, if you start talking about enterprises, B2B situation, then you have the concept of either a household or an organization, which is where there could be one person who decides let's say, the fate of many other subscriptions or lines or maybe certain accounts. So that brings in another level of hierarchy. But generally, if you talk about Pega treating, let's say, banking and telecommunication as their, or maybe healthcare as well as their primary known areas that they've got frameworks for, which opens up a lot of opportunities for other areas. Now, I mean, I've not been shy in talking about I was working with Kindred, right? This was an entertainment industry, primarily into gambling. And again, the common areas between all of these organizations is marketing. So instead of talking about domains, we say, let's talk about which areas of the business you want to touch upon. And we say we want to touch upon marketing. Then in reality, marketing is a very horizontal field. Somebody who's working in marketing, let's say for telcos, might of course find banking still similar because you're trying to convince your customers to buy something. The concepts are very similar. Yes, I mean, domain expertise is still one thing. So rather than only talk about a very, very vertical domain, we can talk about horizontal fitment as well, which is where you talk, are you focusing on decisioning within just the marketing space, then bring in all of those flavors of marketing. And there's always a slow paced industry. So although you may say telco is fast, but I don't think it's fast in terms of how many times do customers come in to change the contract. But if you talk about gambling, that is very, very fast paced. Customers could log in multiple times a day to do, certain transactions, maybe place a bet.
Yeah.
And this is where the opportunities to talk about the next best action kind of is compounded. So there's always a difference between a slow moving and a fast moving. Fast moving, you always need something. You need a huge action library, essentially.
Yeah.
So which sort of fits us nicely into the future, really, because we're talking about what other domains can really fit in. So where do you think decisioning is heading? And I'm sort of trying to also bring in the flavor of AI. We've seen a lot of AI being used, such as Blueprint, right? There was no decisioning blueprint. Now there's a decisioning blueprint.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. Yeah.
so where are we heading now with? In fact, I've heard this quote which is floating on LinkedIn. Is that Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft? He said SaaS is dead and Pega is a SaaS platform. Do you think Pega are geared up to survive this next next couple of years, 5 years through the use of AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of I'll remark two of them. One that it's the AI thing. So I think that in the past maybe 3 years, 4 years, not 4 years, maybe three. Yeah, Pega decisioning has been better in this aspect, right? So and not only for AI but for reporting, for changing the mentality of instead of campaigning, it's another concept, right? So but AI, yeah, I think that if they want to continue to this path and I mean Pega decisioning the product, and to make it really a valuable product and being competence to the other compete with the other products also, I think that there is like a kind of race to see uh, which product applies better, or yeah, it's with better with AI, right? So at the moment, I think that there are a lot of aspects that AI is involved, say creating agreement or um, generating content, um, selecting the image. There are plenty of places also, the body, and asking a particular thing, Pega decisioning, you get the answer right, like ChatGPT, but inside Pega. That's extraordinary. And I think that if they do this evolution, if they apply this into more aspects in Pega decisioning, they are in a good track. But also, and now I'm daring to say that. Of course, Pega comes from America, right? So it's a product from America.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm answering this question by asking it also, because how do you see that now, Trump talking about politics also, sent to Europe and to the general world that there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be taxes, right? So every country have to pay taxes, but not
Yeah.
only for products, but for services also. So I believe that I don't know how it's going to involve the usage of Pega product inside Europe, considering this incremental tax. I'm not sure about if it's going to increase, let's say, the
The license fee and
license fee.
yeah, services as well. Yeah, I think that's an interesting take on things because there's only so far I think a value can be taken. I mean, of course, Pega is one of the most premium products out there for one-to-one personalization. But there's a lot of competitors coming up, and there's this, you must have heard of a company come up with AI decisioning. Now, I mean, it's nothing to do with decisioning that we've seen in Pega, but it's a CDP company, customer data platform, looking at some of the streaming data, aggregating data. They've come up with this concept, and you will see a lot of competitors. But within marketing, the use cases are pretty simple. They want to target the customers with the most relevant offering, and they want to do it at scale, fast, and essentially reaching out the right customers. Because the worst thing is reaching out the wrong customer or a
Yeah,
customer at the wrong time because they are not ready to make a purchase.
yeah,
And this is where the ethos of the entire marketing is sort of hanging, or it's balanced. It's not about how creatively we do things, and there could be a whole tech around that. So it's like simplifying the most complex things around. So it
yeah,
cannot be measured in terms of how successful a company has been, or how easy is it to do things, or maybe how complex it has been. But it's really, is the tool now fit for the job in the new age where everyone is used to getting answers almost instantly. You remember
yeah, yeah,
when Deliveroo started, it's cooking at home, maybe for some people reduced, or even going out to restaurants reduced,
yeah,
because the food actually it's the quickness in the world of Amazon, right, where things are coming in to your home that you stop going out to the shops. So
yeah,
with AI, this is where people are instantly expecting answers. And there's one thing about having things like Knowledge Buddy, where you or maybe even support buddy, where you put in your question and you get answers. But there's another aspects related to generative AI, and this is where the things are quite uncontrollable. Unless the tool really talks about consistency, and some of the model creators out there, the big companies, they have started to have models which have more consistency in what they deliver. So, and I feel this is moving towards the SaaS workflow consistency route, where if you feed in certain things, you don't want the output to substantially change. Give one recommendation to somebody. I mean, like in healthcare, for example, you can't tell somebody that, oh, you're actually, because of this diagnosis, you're suffering from cancer, and the next one is going to be, oh, my diagnosis is not actually cancer, you're suffering from maybe some problems of your skin. So there's a consistency, because if the recommendation changes, of course, a creative recommendation is one thing. You give somebody an image of a star, and suddenly that star looks like a nebula. That's still okay. That's a creative aspect. But when it comes to decisions about whether somebody is going to get a loan or a mortgage, you simply cannot play with your customers'
No.
lives, and that's the biggest complexity with AI, and this is where simplification is needed. And I think going forward, a tool still has to confirm its worth, whether it's additional taxation, whether it's fighting to survive in this modern age where the competition is not just with nimble contenders which are coming out in the market. Their costs are less, hence the license prices are low. It's also this upcoming technology which is everywhere, AI, right? There could be another company that can say we've got AI embedded, we are AI first, right? And we can do these
Yeah.
things at like 100 times the cost, and giving you 100 times less, and then giving you 100 times more value. Then where
Yeah.
does that leave all these traditional companies? So that's something
Yeah.
that we have to compete and be aware of.
Mm.
So I
That's
think
that's
that's
that's yeah. Just a remark on that point that you mentioned is that it's yeah. I think that it's important that we, as a persons, as a developers, take decisions on priority, and AI give it as a second priority at some certain points. Let's say important emails or something like that. So I think that this capability also is introduced also in Pega decisioning. So yeah. That's it. Yeah, tell me.
absolutely, that's a great thought we can leave our viewers with, is focus on the upcoming technology while keeping your current Pega decisioning skills up to date. And of course, decisioning fits in very nicely with marketing. There's headless decisioning. So keeping up to date on the industry trends is going to help everyone moving forward.
Yeah,
So I just want to talk about one last piece, Jordi. I mean, it's been an immensely satisfying conversation, obviously connecting
yeah.
with you.
Okay.
You've been in
I
this
think that we
space.
can go. I think that we can go on and on, but of
Yeah,
course,
but all good things
maybe.
do come to, we got to save the best parts for also for our further conversation, maybe further episodes. But Jordi Ferris, if you were not in decisioning, what would you have done?
Well, that's yeah. I mean, if I were in decisioning, I'm not sure because I cannot go to the past and say, okay, now, I cannot think further. But probably at that, if I if I have a time machine and go back, let's say, and start instead of starting Pega decisioning, I would start something about IT also. So IT related, that's for sure. If you Another topic that is that what would have done, or what if you have a chance to change your career path, I would stay in decisioning, of course. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much. I would be in IT, but I also have to say to you that also I'm very very interested in how it's called in English, Asian um, real estate, in real estate. So
Really, estate
I'm very, very,
agents.
yeah, yeah. So a state agent,
Mhm.
yeah. So also it's something that it intrigues to me. all out, and I'm very, very passionate on that. It's not something that I'm practicing it, but I'm curious. I'm very, very interested also. So it's something. Of course, my first priority would be IT testing, more testing than developing, probably. Um, Secondly, probably real estate. Yeah.
All right, that's a fantastic choice because the second one that you mentioned that kind of matches with what I'm kind of looking at as well. So, of course, I mean,
Okay.
I've been an IT person all my life, so there's hardly any other choice for me. So, of course, I would have been IT. Would I have been doing decisioning? Maybe, maybe not. Decisioning, I came in by almost, um, a recommendation by somebody saying, try this out. And as I mentioned, I started off in platform operations. I was doing project management. I would have
Mhm.
probably continued into the management area. I would be like, program project management. And I have kind of done a similar activity and very, rather than being very specific to a product, I've been
Mhm.
looking at doing these things already. So it's not as if I'm very far from what I'm doing, but being of a very hands on nature, I do a lot of DIY and I fix a lot of things around the house, outside. Uh,
Okay.
and some of the people would not have known that I did kind of work on the car's interiors as well, right? So I did open up the entire central console dashboard, fitting in air conditioner wires. I could very well void warranties of these things if I start with. But yeah, very hands-on, fitting in CCTV
But
cameras, wiring, name it.
may I ask, only in your place or outside also?
Well, at my place, I don't think I'm like certified to, to go out in people's places and do it. But
Yeah,
as a
yes.
profession, it's going to be very easy for me. So I could very well have been an electrician. I could have been a plumber. I could have been a carpenter. I build stuff. I've got all those power tools available. I could be a security installer. So um, uh, I think these are the traits of somebody who is hands-on. So I'm very fearless about picking up the tools and doing things on my own. The next
Nice.
thing really challenging is AI. Now that's something. By the way, I did also have a crypto a mining rig as well. So I built my own mining rig with number of GPUs,
Okay. Cool.
mining for Ethereum. So that's one of the things to add.
That's something like a coin, like a
Yeah.
crypto coin. Okay.
So
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 you
it's
need mining and all of that. Okay. Cool.
yeah. So with mining rig, you validated the blockchain essentially
Yeah.
and getting paid in rewards and coins. So that was the model then. That this doesn't. It's well, I would say there are miners out there, but they are very expensive ASICs. So these are very specialized integrated circuit.
Mm.
So using GPUs is no more viable. It's not profitable anymore. So there's not a lot of people who do that.
I'm just losing here because I don't know.
Yeah, so
Uh,
AI is probably the next thing that people should be looking at before we turn our heads to quantum. So yeah, it's a very interesting time and a space to be in. So with that, Jody,
yeah.
absolutely brilliant conversation with you. By the way, we're not even in the same country anymore, and everyone just look us up on LinkedIn. I'm going to put our QR
Yeah.
codes there. There's going to be some in the comments as well. So uh, do reach out and don't hesitate in asking any sort of question, no matter how basic they are. We'd love to be in contact. So, Jordi,
Mm.
thank you so much for your time. As usual, we've spoken
Yes.
many times now, and
Yeah.
we'll try to do some more conversations on topics as well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for organizing that and for preparing all the stuff because in the background there is a lot of work behind that. So I'm happy to join. And yeah, thank you for inviting me. So let's meet next time.
All right. Thank you.